Welcome back, everyone, to Spirit Man Studios. I am back in my new setup, new dorm, new year, new major. That's right, I have another major added to my college degree, so it's going to take me a little bit of a while longer to actually get anywhere. But today we're not talking about college stuff. We're here to talk about movies, and today we have 2 movies to review, so let's get right into it. Kingsman: The Golden Circle is directed by Matthew Vaughn once again and stars Taron Egerton as Eggsy as he is continuing his journey through Kingsman. It has been a couple years since the Valentine incident, and he is trying to keep things stable with his new girlfriend, who is the princess from the previous movie. And now he has to do, the parental things, like meeting the father and the mother of their daughter, whatever. And at the same time, the Golden Circle, led by Poppy, played by Julianne Moore, is seeking to have a different type of Bond villain type thing concerning the use of illegal narcotics in order to hold the world hostage to actually achieve something. I can't really disclose a lot there. This movie is not as good as I hoped it would be. The first movie had so much going for it. But there's just 2 things that I want to point out that could lead some to be in a little bit of a disappointment. The first movie had a lot of structure, and that's mostly due to the fact that it was based off of the comic book by the same name, Kingsman: The Secret Service. This time around, there is no source material to pull from, so they had to create something wholly new. I do realize that at this point they are making another Kingsman comic, but the thing is that comic is based off of the book and not necessarily from the same series of comics that the original movie was based off of. So they're completely pulling everything out of thin air. What we get, though, is a very entertaining film, I would say. It's not a great film by any means, and there are certain things that I would have changed to make it a bit better. But aside from that, it's entertaining. It's not a great sequel, and it's not a bad film by any means, because there is some good stuff to go about it. First thing that's good, still, is the action set pieces. They're very fun, fast, energetic, and just as good as the originals. However, it does kind of miss that one scene from the original, the church fight scene, where it's just all out, balls to the wall insane. And this one doesn't really have a scene like that. It's just like, fight scene, fight scene, fight scene, fight scene. There's not really like a blow your mind fight scene, except towards the end, I think, in my opinion. There's certain characters in this movie that die, but some of them feel a bit unjustified. If you hear construction outside, that means there's construction outside. The thing with this movie is that there's some characters like Roxy and JB, the dog, and other characters. Some characters get introduced at the beginning just to die like 20 minutes later, which is kind of sad, really, because you have all these really cool characters that we had, and they die for no justifiable reason. And then we get another character back, which in the form of Colin Firth. The way he's brought back is a bit nonsensical, but I could understand it, kind of. It's like it's a James Bondian, early James Bondian gadget work. But the thing with that is that I don't feel Colin Firth was needed in this film. To be quite honest, I think Eggsy, because Colin Firth died in the first movie, it gave him more justifiable reason to go after Valentine in the first movie. Here, we don't really have a necessary reason as to why Eggsy wants to go after the Golden Circle, other than the fact that Roxy and JB and his friends died. But the thing with this movie is I don't know. There's just something else missing. There's something missing in this film that made the original so good. And maybe it's because character arc needed to come back. There needed to be a good, solid character arc for our main characters, but there really wasn't any. And let's talk about the Statesmen. Now, the Statesmen are essentially the American cousins to the Kingsmen in England, and I feel that their introduction, the way they build their world, is somewhat interesting. There's not a lot of new gadgets for them, other than maybe the electric lasso and that one small item that they use at a concert. You'll see it when you see it, but yeah, the Kingsman's the Statesman's introduction was kind of neat and interesting. The way the remaining Kingsmen figure out that they need to team up with the Statesmen. You know, there was people that were laughing in that scene, and it was kind of funny, and it was funny for a little bit. And it kind of went on a little bit too long, but I thought it was kind of funny. The Statesmen themselves are pretty good. However, Channing Tatum in this movie, the most marketed character in the movie besides Eggsy and Mark Strong, pretty much, gets sidelined towards the end of the first act, and is put into cryosleep due to something that happens to him. I can't really explain it. Yeah, that's just all I have to say on that. There is one thing, though, in this movie that they don't necessarily explain, and this is going to be some slight spoilers, but Harry Hart sees butterflies everywhere. You'll see it when you see it, but they never explain why he's seeing butterflies everywhere. I don't know why, but it's just weird. It's odd to me that they would do that. Besides all that, the acting is pretty good in this film. Most if not every single character in this movie gives some pretty good performances in this one. Eggsy is still, the kind of Aladdin-type character for this series, and it works. It works really well for his character. I found his relationship with the princess to be a bit touching towards the end. Even if there is one scene in the middle of the movie where it's like, it's kind of questionable there, and the rest of the movie is pretty entertaining. The script is all right; it's just not as compelling as the original. The villain this time around, she's pretty great, and then they throw in this huge moral gray zone about something. I can't really get into it. It is a hot button issue, and granted, some people have complained about that aspect, but to be honest, the last one did the same freaking thing. Granted, not exactly the same thing, but you have this sort of, moral divide between killing millions of people to serve a purpose, or, get this instead. Yeah, Julianne Moore's Poppy is honestly kind of the most enjoyable aspect about this film. She's kind of cheesy in a way. Some people have said it's her greatest performance. I don't think so. I mean, she is a bit threatening, and she does it in a very psychotic way. And it's kind of interesting. At least I can say, this is like the first time I've ever seen a movie where a guy gets shredded into meat as a way of intimidation. I've seen Sweeney Todd. I've seen people getting made into meat pies, but this is something next level. It was kind of fun. Hold on, let me shut my window here. All right. I don't know if that helped much, but we'll see. In the end, Kingsman: The Golden Circle doesn't fully live up to my expectations of a great sequel, but that's because the first film had so much higher standards for what it was. This sequel just almost gets to that level, but it's just not there. I'm going to give Kingsman: The Golden Circle a C+. The LEGO Ninjago movie is the third movie in the LEGO Dimensions Cinematic Universe. Yes, I am coining it right now, the LEGO Dimensions Cinematic Universe, as it follows Lloyd and a secret ninja force as they are trying to defeat Lord Garmadon each and every day that he arrives in Ninjago to try to stop him. At the same time, Lloyd is a high schooler as well as his other teammates as they go to high school, and pretty much the entire town knows that Lloyd is the son of Lord Garbodon. But when he puts on the Green Ninja outfit, they don't know who the hell he is. They just see an awesome person trying to take down Lord Garbodon and his forces. This movie is not as good as the other two movies, but it's still well made. The first thing to point out is that the animation, while good, some of it kind of feels like a bit of a departure from previous entries. Where in this movie, the natural elements like fire and water are all CGI'd and not Legoized in any way. The other two did, the Lego thing well. This time around, it's completely different. There is still the stop motion Lego bits and whatnot, and the animation is still good. It's still competent. However, where the story kind of falls apart is the story. The story kind of feels a bit done before, because this film deals with issues of fatherhood and parenting and whatnot, which is something that the previous two movies did. The Lego movie had President Business was essentially the father of this kid who was playing in his dad's basement where he shouldn't be, and it led to some fatherly issues. The Lego Batman movie dealt with, Bruce Wayne dealing with the death of his parents while also trying to be a quasi-father to Robin. Now we have Lord Garbodon is the father of Lloyd, and Lloyd's being picked on because, well, he's an evil warlord that seeks to destroy Ninjago, so who wouldn't want to make fun of him? It also kind of makes me think, if they did the same thing for a Lego Star Wars thing, would they do the same thing for Luke Skywalker? Like if everyone knew that, Darth Vader was Luke's father, would everyone on Mos Eisley or anywhere else he goes to, give him shit for it? That's just kind of how I felt about it. This movie is very fast-paced in its animation, and you can tell by the way it's fighting. The one thing, though, that some LEGO Ninjago fans might find distracting is the fact that this movie isn't necessarily based off of the actual TV series. And I keep hearing the TV series is pretty good, so I'm wondering, why did they not continue that storyline into this movie and make it part of the larger cinematic universe? I have no clue. Pretty much they create a brand new thing, a brand new concept for these ninjas and whatnot, and it kind of works. And the ultimate weapon in this film is kind of creative. The whole symbolic nature of it is actually kind of neat, and it tells kind of a nice sort of story about self-discovery and inner peace and whatnot at the end. But I also found that most of this movie was kind of like an extended Power Rangers episode, in parts at least. And there's even a part in this movie where they incorporate a live-action cat, which was like the most groundbreaking thing I've seen in this type of movie. To have like a live cat playing in this stop-motion Lego world. I've never seen something like that either on the internet or in other movies. I felt that was kind of a nice creative pace. And while I don't think it's as great as the other two, I could sense a bit of a repetition going on with this movie that continues to trend through all three of these movies. And I do feel that if there isn't much more creative difference between the different movies, then I don't know how much longer the cinematic universe will continue. But by any means, the LEGO Ninjago movie is actually kind of fun. The jokes in this movie, if you're into martial arts films, you'll love this film. It's very funny in the way that it presents its martial arts and how it does the type of stuff. All the in-jokes and subtle references to other martial arts films, and they even make fun of some other martial arts conventions, and it's kind of interesting and fun. The voice acting in this movie is top-notch, especially Lord Garbodon. I think Lord Garbodon had probably the best performance in this movie. Lloyd as a central protagonist isn't exactly the most interesting character when I really think about it. But then at the same time, he is a person that's being unfairly judged by society because of his familial ties to a warlord. So that kind of message about that is very poignant in today's political landscape. But in the end, this movie is fun and enjoyable to watch. It's not as good as the other two films, the Lego Batman movie and the Lego movie, but it certainly has its stripes, and it certainly has its own momentum, and it has its own story that it seeks to tell. And for a story like this one, it works out pretty well. If I were to say anything, this movie is definitely one you would take your kids to go see. This is a pretty good movie. I do happen to... One thing, though, that I did kind of find boring in this film is essentially the second and third act. There's a lot of long, drawn-out... Like, the second and third act kind of drags a bit. The first act is really good, but it just kind of drags to the second and third act, which could bore some kids, but to be honest, I was kind of entertained throughout. It's not that long of a movie. It's only about an hour 45, hour 40 minutes, so it really isn't that long of a movie. In the end, the Lego Ninjago movie may not be as good as the other two predecessors, but it still maintains its own story, its own themes, its own characters, and while it does have flaws with basing the team dynamic and whatnot, there is a lot of things to really admire. The animation's good, the story's kind of well crafted, I guess. The voice acting is great, so yeah, you have all that. Plus, you get Jackie Chan in a pretty decent and funny performance in this movie. I'm gonna give the Lego Ninjago movie a... Thank you guys so much for watching my 2 reviews this week. I am excited to keep reviewing some more movies. I have a couple more flashback reviews in the pipeline for October. My next video for flashback is childhood traumas. So finally, you get to know what my childhood traumas were. And still are in some cases. So I've been working on that a lot. So expect that one to be at the middle of October. And then after that, I got a couple more stuff on the way. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.